Kindred UMC live show features adults discussing adult topics, occasionally with adult language. It may not be suitable for young viewers. Please use discretion before watching.
Hello all. Welcome once again to the Kindred UMC live show. We are coming to you not live, but pre-recorded from my front room, aka Kindred Studio A. My name is Chris Hayden. I'm the pastor at Kindred UMC.
Hi, I'm Courtney Young. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Kindred UMC.
And I'm Preston. Accept your losses and ditch the kids. I mean, accept your losses and win later.
Your fantasy football losses?
No, in life, like where you should
Ditch the kids?
That's only one person knows what that means.
Okay, all right. Well, that's only slightly smaller than our usual audience, so.
Oh.
What's going on? What's going on there?
Huh?
What's going on there? What are you doing?
Is Michael abusing you?
You said oh, and then you started fixing your mic. I was just...
No, I said oop, as in like, oop, as in what TikTokers say.
I hate this generation. You are the worst generation ever, period.
He said, only one other person knows what that means. And you said, that's only slightly smaller than a regular audience. So I said, oop. It means no, he didn't. Or, okay.
That's not a thing. That's just a noise. It's not
That's like just saying jitterbug in the 90s. Like, stop it.
Okay.
Jitterbug. No jitterbug.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're starting a new... I'm going to cut all of this out. We're starting a new series that I am calling InVulnerable. And it's about vulnerability. There's a lot of complicated consonants in there. Vulnerability. So I'm going to start with a cute little story from the Gospel of John. John chapter 13, verses 1 through 11, not 12, 11. And it goes like this, is during the Last Supper. It goes like this. Now before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. So this is literally before he's about to be executed, or arrested and executed. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and yes, I see you, buddy. Yeah, good boy. And during the supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, he got up from the table, took off his outer robe, tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" And Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." And Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." And Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean, and you are clean, though not all of you, for he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, not all of you are clean." I think John is a bad writer, but whatever. So I want to talk about this idea of, a lot of times when we talk about Jesus washing the disciples' feet, it's kind of a common churchy scripture that people preach about a lot and talk about a lot, and it's in a lot of Bible studies. I've written several curriculums for youth group about it,
Mm-hmm.
And almost always the angle kind of comes from the idea of we should be people who humble ourselves to wash the feet. It's this idea that Jesus is, even though he is Lord, he's so humble that he's willing to wash their feet and to be naked before them and wash their feet, And that's certainly a thing that's happening, and fair enough as a takeaway. I want to talk about Simon's reaction. Simon Peter. His reaction is no. Don't wash my feet. I'm not going to let you, Lord, wash my feet. I think that's an understandable reaction. Like, that's something that I can empathize with. But for the sake of talking it out, what do you make of that? Why do you think he reacts that way?
It's 100% a human reaction. Someone who's an authority to you, don't accept help from them. You are to give help to authority. That's like ground rules.
How about just don't accept help, period?
Well, yeah, but in Peter's sense, to just go into that dynamic first, even though it's boiled down to that, most likely.
Yeah.
I only want to help me. I don't want to burden anyone else with my needs.
Let's talk about the how do you empathize with Peter?
I have a
What's
story.
Okay.
I have a story that this made me think of. So I was talking with a friend recently about my weight loss journey and how I had hit a new low and how I was really excited about it. And
I thought you meant low is a bad way, but when
No,
you're losing weight,
when you're losing weight, a low is a good.
A low is a high.
It's a high, and I was excited about it, but I don't normally share about that part of my stuff with people I'm close with, because something about it feels very I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but something about it does feel very vulnerable.
What's it feel like?
It's nerve-wracking. It's for some reason the number hey, I'm this weight, putting that out there is naked, you talked about, very vulnerable. It's very
So you said nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a fear, anxiety.
It's
You're expecting ridicule.
Not even that, but more I don't know what to expect the response from that person is going to be. Is it that they're going to be excited for me? Is it that they're going to feel bad about themselves?
So it sounds more like it's a fear thing.
Yeah.
It's I'm afraid what's going to happen after I say this.
Yeah. So I had shared about what this weight was, and this person was excited for me, and my response, or they had said, "You should be so proud. I haven't seen that weight since high school." And my immediate response back to that was to deflect and say, "Don't dismiss your own progress. You're doing amazing too. I'm also proud of you." And this person was like, I'm not dismissing my own progress. I just think you should be proud of yourself, and I wanted to affirm that. I promise. And I was like, oh. And then I sat and was like, why was that my response? And it was because for me, I have a hard time letting other people be proud of me and letting other people in on my moments. I'm very because I'm very selectively vulnerable.
But how come? You just repeated the same thing.
Yeah.
I have a hard time letting people in. Why? Because I can't let people in very well. Well, why?
Okay.
Because I'm very selective.
So because for me, half the time I just have a really hard time expressing needs. When I need something, when I want something, a fear of mine is being too needy.
I was going to say, is it a similar feeling?
Yeah.
The fear,
so fear
anxiety
being
feeling?
perceived as needy or too much, or I'm giving in order to get kind of stuff. And so I'm very selectively vulnerable about the things I feel comfortable talking about that don't require me to actually
But they're not vulnerable.
Right, they're not vulnerable because I can intellectualize
It's the appearance of vulnerability, because this is something that maybe other people might have a hard time talking about,
Right.
but I don't have a problem.
Yeah, I can intellectualize
Yeah.
those things. Stuff with my dad, I can intellectualize that and talk about it left, right, back and forth again. But you get me into even something that's positive, my weight. I'm hey, I did this. And then I have a hard time letting them, one, sharing it, two, letting them be excited for me and proud of me without deflecting it back onto them and taking the focus off of me. And three, it's rough.
Original question about empathize. How do you think, Preston, by the way, what do you think the feeling behind Peter's reaction is? What's going on inside his heart?
The first one that hits me is not unworthiness. So I don't deserve your hands on my feet. My feet are disgusting.
Maybe like shame, embarrassment?
It's Yes, that is it. But shame usually comes of something you are doing to produce your own shame, while someone else doing something for you. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's like a group shaming thing. Like, because Peter was singled out first. So he's like,
well, I think
I'm going to be
this
guy.
It gets to him.
Oh, okay.
I think you can read the text literally and specifically.
Oh, then on that, well, maybe it's one-upping.
I think it gets to him, and he's like, no, surely not.
Yeah, it's a one-upping thing.
Well, that is. I mean, there's
something
about that.
Notice everyone else did, but not Mr. Peter.
There is something about that. Peter is kind of a kiss ass a little bit.
Yeah.
Or a kiss bottom, please. So, but I do think that there's something genuine about his. I mean, like, we'll never know because
it's contradictory.
And this probably, I don't know that this literally happened or not, because John's gospel is written like a century after Jesus dies. So like this may just be like an apocryphal story that was like a lesson that they used to tell the new church people how Jesus was and how to behave and all that kind of thing. So, but I want to stick with that original thing of like not unworthiness, and to me that I think that feels like shame, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like I'm trying to really drill down to the feeling, and here's why. Because the whole reason we're doing this series is because Courtney literally texted me. Was it yesterday? Yesterday,
yeah.
We were going to do a thing on Leviticus, which I may have even mentioned in previous things, but we'll get to that later. Courtney, well, why don't you? Why would I tell you her story? Tell your story.
So I, over the last week, had 3 different conversations. I had 2 of them. My husband Matt had 1, and all of those conversations.
I think you said had 3 times.
Had.
You know what? Okay. Anyway, 3 conversations, and all of them in completely different ways, completely unrelated to each other. These people that we all talk to don't even individually know each other at all in any circle, came back to this idea of, oh, well, I don't want to overshare, or, oh, I don't want to talk about myself too much, or I don't want to be a burden.
Mm-hmm. That was the phrase that I latched onto. Which is kind of
what I was getting at with the needs thing. I don't want to have needs. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to put too much on you, was something somebody else had said. Let me know if I'm oversharing. I don't want to annoy you.
Yeah,
all
but
of that.
Burden, there's a because there. Like, is it because I don't want to be even more of a burden than I already think I am? So like a self-reflection? Or is it, I already know you do so much anyway, why would I want to be any part of that and have you be more stressed because of me?
I think it's broader than that. I don't think it's a like, because what that sounds like to me is somebody, like a specific context, like a specific kind of relationship with an individual.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing and picking, and what this triggered in me is, like, as soon as I read the text, I was like, there's something going on here. Mm-hmm. And I actually think it's a change, and I think it's a cultural change. This is a broader thing than just an individual relationship context. I think like a ton of people feel exactly how you described, and here, this is my working hypothesis, because I haven't been able to get the kind of the idea out of my head ever since you brought it up. It's like, why is that? Because I don't feel that way. Like, I've never worried about being a burden by like telling my story or like being myself. Like, I've never felt like I was a burden for being like. In fact, I remember when some friends of mine from high school, I didn't have my license yet, and so they drove me home, and I was in the car. I was in the backseat of the car with 2 of my friends, my theater friends, and they were talking about something about family or something, and then I was like, it kind of like came to me, like, okay, it's your turn to talk now, And I was like, well, and I had a really abusive upbringing, and my mom was kind of a hellish person to live with as I was a child. And I was like, honestly, I I hate living with my, like, I hate this. I don't have any positive good things about this at all. Like I said something that was just, and everyone was like, well, and they didn't know what to do and they moved on. And I remember feeling that, and you know, it wasn't like the best feeling in the world that it was like I created an awkward moment, but I also didn't care because it was like, no, I'm telling you the truth. Like, this is how I feel about this. And it occurs to me that that's like a dying or dead thing. Nobody does that anymore.
Yeah.
And there is, I think, a disproportionately weirdly high level of this weird anxiety, fear around awkwardness. Like, oh my God, what if I say something that stops the conversation? What if it's quiet for a minute? And like, and it's not just like from an internal thing too, it's also externally. Like, I feel like not only are we afraid we're going to say something that makes it awkward, but it feels to me like everyone is so desperately afraid of it ever even being awkward, even if it's not their fault. Like, we're so scared and nervous about awkwardness. I had a recent interaction with somebody who, a group of people were coming over to our house for the first time. We were going to play like a board game, basically. It was Dungeons and Dragons. And they were coming over, and one of the people, even though I'd given the address to everyone, and one of the people, and they texted me, like all of them texted me from their car to say they were here. And I was like, well, come ring the doorbell. Like, come knock on the door. And one person I literally had to like talk into, like, well, listen, I've got a camera on the doorbell. Like, at least just come to the doorbell and then I can tell you if it's you or not or whatever. Like they were so scared to knock on the door and being like, hi, is this Chris's house? That they couldn't bring themselves to do it. And I think that's this weird fear of awkwardness, and I don't understand it. But I think it matters to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's a safety thing. I think in particular with like social media nowadays too. I've noticed like a drastic shift from when I was in high school, early college, even the life place I am at now. Like, I was posting all kinds of embarrassing pictures on the internet and like living my best life, and it was fine. And now like everybody has perfectly curated feeds. Everybody has an aesthetic that they follow. Everybody's like very like put together.
It's just another way that the internet, social media is killing us all.
But to tie into your point of awkwardness, like I think there's something about this idea of being put together too that people just can't seem to let go of, and I think they go hand in hand.
That's interesting. Like a moment of awkwardness kind of insists that you are not this image.
Right. Yeah.
You're not the cool kid or the hot chick or the whatever fill in the blank with whatever image you're trying to put out there.
Yeah, it's not perfectly curated anymore.
Yeah.
The thing that you're trying to curate isn't
that
actually
is
it.
Actually really interesting.
It's a movie.
Like even today, like I care way less than most people I know, but way more than most like you guys about
most definitely
about my social media presence and what I look like on the internet and stuff today.
I don't give I'm not allowed to say the word anymore about it. Like I just could not care less about myself. So I post like dinner photo. Like I like to cook. I make dinner. And like that's fun. But I go for weeks without doing it because of what happens is I do it and then I'm like, I'm bored with this, and I stop.
Oh no.
And then eventually I'll get to the point where I was like, ooh, I want to make that. Oh, and that'll make me want to like take a cool picture of it. And like it occurs to me that all of that is for me. I don't really care how many people see it.
Right. When I post a picture on the internet,
everyone else is doing the opposite.
The preset, all my presets have to be the exact same on my feed. I can only post a certain number of times a week because if you post too much, then you look desperate and needy. If you post too little, then you're not active enough, and you want everything to be consistent and cohesive. And So.
But it sounds like there's like a they there.
And this is an exaggeration, but
I'm fine with that for like, and it's literally what we pay you to do for
Right.
our like organization. Mm-hmm. I think there's something scary about how much we do that with individuals,
Right.
with our individual identity.
because the thing is that Instagram is a highlight reel, right? So people are only posting.
It's not even that. It's like, I don't know if anybody remembers when the Rogue One trailer came out and there were scenes in the trailer that were not in the movie. That's what Instagram is.
Yeah, people are posting.
It's scenes from your life that actually aren't in your life. They're posed.
Yep.
They're fake.
Right.
They're not real.
Right.
It's not like you're out to dinner with friends and you're being like, oh, I caught this genuine moment.
No, that's
It's
not how
like,
that works.
hey, we're out to dinner with friends. I need everyone to act like they're having a good time, and then the waiter's gonna take our picture. Let's all pretend that we're
You mean you overcompensate feeling, emotions, and life choices to make it seem like you're bigger than you actually are, which leads to you having ammunition to shoot at others if they have these kind of things happening because you're doing it back at home.
I don't even know that it's malicious so much as it is.
No.
insecure.
Right.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
more about insecurity.
But insecurity
Right.
turns
But then
into,
the insecurity can definitely become like weaponized.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd say it feeds ammunition.
So so we're getting at kind of the heart of why I want to talk about vulnerabilities.
It's creepy.
We're getting to the heart of, here's the problem. Without the risk of those awkward moments and those unscripted times that it can feel a little uncomfortable, or that, like, first of all of that is rooted to coping and defense mechanisms. Mm-hmm. If it gets uncomfortable, there's not much left for me to do except feel my feelings and be in my own skin. And I hate that because I hate me. Like, I think that's what's going on underneath. Mm-hmm. And so the answer is not to continue to fill that void with noise, but instead to really, hopefully in a safe community or with the help of a professional, to really start to address what it is you can't stand about being you. So that's the first thing, is your relationship with yourself. So unwillingness to be vulnerable and hurt a little destroys your relationship with yourself. Second, it destroys your relationship with everything else. Everything external, hey Brandon, come on in. Everything external is also kind of sabotaged by that. And that's what I mean about, like, that's the point I'm getting at about the, like, here, the waiter's gonna take our picture. Let's all pretend. Like, there can't be anything genuine. Or if there ever is a genuine thing, if it's not captured and then publicized and used and weaponized and, then it's not real. Like, we're living in a fake reality, and it leads to destruction of relationship. And not just destruction, like, it leads to non-birth of relationship. Like, you can't develop new anything in that type of environment. It's like a vacuum, So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at and talking about how in the world do we practice vulnerability. How can we be okay when those moments happen? And how can we practice self-love and risk actually having real relationships and real moments with others? So, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.